Hey, it's Money Monday, and it's me, Shawnee, making sure that I share a conversation with you that hopefully converts over to you making more cash. All right. So if you don't feel your wealth today, if you don't feel your money coming at you, right? If you don't have a plan to go with those desires, you're lacking a little bit of discipline to go with that dollar desire, I'm going to give you some money motivation. All right. So open up your spiritual purse, open up your actual purse, open up your actual bank account, open up your spiritual bank account, whichever one of those actually, buckets make you connect to money. That's the one that I want you to open up because I'm about to give you some money, honey, honey. I hope that you feel richer because every time I connect with you, that's exactly how I feel. So today's show is about something that a lot of my clients deal with. And last week we were talking a whole lot about student loan debt in terms of, just finding some creative ways to eliminate it. It was an excellent show with my boss babe, Claudiane. But this week I'm going to be sharing some of the concepts from one of my other boss babes that has done a large work in eliminating her student loan debt. Her name is Ivy. She's paid off over $20,000 in student loan debt. She is actually paying her student loans while they're frozen. So that's good. I know that there's some differentiation between what's private and what's by the government owned in terms of like the interest, and she's going to talk more about that. But I think that's huge. So if you do have some student loans, and certainly if you tuned into last week's show, then you're going to find that this conversation is a bit of a follow-up, right? A follow-up just to keep the conversation going, just because we got some more questions. So we're going to bring Ivy on to the show now. Hey, Ives.
Hi.
Hey, how you feeling?
How are
What
you?
you feeling?
I'm feeling great. I'm excited about this conversation.
Okay, did you get some of that money, honey?
Yes, absolutely.
All right.
My purse is all the way open. It's right over here to the side.
Good. All right, so we're going to get into these student loans, and a lot of the people that I bring to the show are people that I have relationships with in real life. So it really gives me the opportunity to not only kind of hear what their processes are, but I get to see their profitability from their processes, which I think enriches that experience for them in terms of, just really practical advice. So this conversation between you and I started, 5 years ago, Ivy?
About maybe a little bit longer. But yeah, about.
Okay, it feels like 5. Okay, so we started this conversation, and if you can recall, which is how a lot of people resonate towards their student loans, right? And from a place of like, this is a burden, they look at their student loans as a burden. They see it with agitation. In a lot of ways, they kind of feel like, I should be going to school for free, like I shouldn't have to pay for this. Yeah, a lot of people have that. Oftentimes, I know that you also, I know that you work in real estate as well. So you have the opportunity for people who, want to get into home ownership, but those student loans kind of either give them a fear, of not purchasing, or, they just feel like I have to do one of things or the other, or they just, put it on the back burner, because sometimes when you look at your student loan debt, I know for my clients, sometimes their student loan debt can be a house, 40, 50, 60, Yeah. So it's like, yeah, so it's like sometimes like, they feel like it's already a house. Like, sis, I already got a house, okay? For those of you that have already joined the live tonight, if you have any questions as it relates to student loans and paying them off, you can start dropping them off in the comment section, and then we'll get to them along with some of our other questions. I myself didn't get a whole lot of student loans, and probably, I don't like to talk about my process just because it's not really that relatable, but some of the things that I can share as it relates to student loans, if you have children, if you have children now, start thinking about that now. So me, I think I was person empowerment even back then. Like, I lived on campus, I never had an off-campus apartment. I was also an RA, so I actually didn't pick up any housing cost. While I was an RA, any little money that I made, even depending on what type of jobs, because I would pile on different jobs. Remember, I'm a journalism major, so my classes weren't pre-med, I could stack on a couple of jobs, so sometimes I remember even paying my student loans when I was there. So when I graduated, I just didn't have a whole lot of student loan debt, and I've always saw my student loan debt from a very gratuitous place. I've already seen it like that, because because I know, like, my parents did very well for me, but there wasn't a whole lot of money sitting around for me to go to school. You know, it just wasn't
Sure.
like a stash of cash. And had not it been for student loans, grants, different type of programs, you know, I might have got stuck home for a while, because when I think back to like my mom's era, many people had to work in order to go
Right.
to school. You had to save
Right.
up in order to go to school. The thought process of going, you know, out of state was kind of like, you know, out of sight, not of mind. It was like unachievable in a lot of ways. So I've
Right.
always looked at my student loans as a way for me to get somewhere else. So I never really had like that begrudging kind of like attitude. So you could take over and talk about how like you used to feel, because you have way more resonance.
I do. And I have to say that I did have quite a few grants. I had like Florida Bright Futures when I was in grad, and the bulk of my student loan debt actually comes from graduate school. When I graduated from the state, I had a nominal amount. I mean, the average person, when they graduate, they have about 30 to 35,000. So mine was aligned with that. As a matter of fact, it was lower than that, but I decided, because I wasn't sure, once I was finished with undergrad, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So I started a graduate program at Nova. It's a private school. It's expensive. I didn't like the program. I left the program. So that was my really expensive, what I call a mistake.
Oh, okay. So that's when you pulled. Oh, okay. So it was at Nova, which is
Correct.
something in terms of like, a lot of times when we talk about student loans, I try to veer away from kind of like talking about where to go and what not to do, because at this point you're already in the debt. You understand what I'm saying? But
Yeah,
Nova
absolutely.
is just one of the more expensive, you know,
Absolutely.
universities to attend.
Absolutely.
So for those that may, you know, haven't gotten that graduate degree, you know, think about some other possibilities, because they are very expensive in comparison to some of the other universities for some of the same degrees. It's crazy. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think, I mean, it's also a matter of, you know what I mean? It's not to talk about the school in a negative light. It's a matter of, if they have a program that you enjoy, maybe you'll be paying for it as you go, right? This was my particular mistake that I call my most expensive mistake that I've learned from in the past. I wouldn't do that now, but I mean, if you're a student and if that's what you want to do, by all
Yeah.
means, do it. Just make a
Yeah.
plan for it. I didn't have a plan. I was floating a little bit because I was just in a really fuzzy space, frankly. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So that's how I kind of got in this predicament. And I think, like, as you mentioned, I did at one point feel like it was such a burden. And I think it was like really from a place of ignorance, because I didn't have the knowledge that I have now about student loans. I didn't even know what my full amount that I owe. I didn't know how the interest was accrued. So it was an annoyance that I basically just ignored and threw in the back burner.
Yeah,
And
it sounds to me that you were attaching, which I think a lot of people do. They attach their frustration of, you know, not using the degree,
Sure.
you know, to it. They attach it to, you know, the degree, not, you know, the projected promises attached to the degree,
Sure.
you know,
Sure.
didn't achieve it. So it's kind of like, you know, like sometimes I'm looking at my clients, you know, credit reports, and I'm like, okay, this with the student, girl, I ain't paying them. They think it's a grant, like it's a loan, you know, like that's thinking, right? Yeah, yeah. I'm like, okay, sis, you know, so that is what that is some, you know, that's an interesting, you know, kind of mindset. And you address your frustration and agitation with information.
Yeah, and I also think it's a mindset thing too, as you mentioned. Like, I think I don't know when you and I had this conversation.
And
Or
let's just go with 5 years. Let's go with 5 years.
it wasn't that long ago though.
Oh, really?
It may not have been an individual conversation. I may have been at one of your events and you mentioned it.
And I talked about, okay.
You talked about this idea of like thinking of student loans as like, you know, if your parents didn't have the money, what would have been your other options, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and that's so many people's situation. Literally, like, just that mindset just turned everything around for me, because I'm like, well, I'm grateful that I did this. Although I made the mistake that I made in the whole graduate school piece, is like, okay, it was available. I did it. And now what can I do to get out of it? So I'm done with
Yeah, but
feelings around that.
Also from a societal perspective, right? You can't really take on all that guilt by yourself because
Sure.
we graduated at a time, that 2001, 2000, like where graduate school was pushed. You understand? Like you're not going to be able to get a job. You're not going to be able to do this. If you want to make $100,000, you need this type of degree. So if you're not using some level of discretion or discernment, then you can very easily jump on this train. And some people did jump on the train and fare well. Some people did. But some did not. So here we are talking about getting rid of the debt. So now that we've kind of dealt with, the egregious part of it, like, you're in and now, sis, right? And if you would like to purchase a home, and use other people's money, if you want to see your credit score improve, if you want to, if you just just kind of want to put it aside, just stop having that negative attachment to, your name and all those things like that. Ivy, you've done a tremendous job in, just getting rid of some of the debt. So I do have some questions because we had some excitement about you being here. So the first one is that we know that you paid out over $20,000 in student loan debt. What's motivating this dollar discipline? What's motivating this for you?
It changes often, which is interesting. This is a part of a larger debt-free journey that I'm interested in doing. I want to be 100% consumer debt-free. So student loan debt is the only debt I have remaining, which is why it's my focus. And at first, I think when I initially started kind of this debt-free journey, it was a matter of like, I wanted a great credit score because that was my understanding of accessing financing, right? It was attached to a credit score. Eventually, like I learned more about money. I learned more about, saving. I learned about all these like debt-free communities and the FIRE community and all these different things. FIRE, by the way, stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. So then I was like, well, I want to be work optional. I want to retire early, right? And then eventually that kind of morphed into a less selfish reason. And now I'm more so like, I want to document the journey so that I can show people that it can be done, that you don't have to be in debt, whatever type of debt it is, for the rest of your life, if you still choose to do something differently. So right now I'm in like a really selfless place where I just want to show people that like, it can be done. Like I'm a normal person, you know me, like, let's do it.
Yeah, I think both of the positioning was selfish. I can see how you think that, but I see both of them as very selfless, acts or whatever, because what happens is even without you even telling, even if you don't have a profile, and you can drop your group if you have the link to your group. For those of you that really need more motivation about paying off your student loan debt, Ivy does have a really good group that she shares a lot of tips on, and both informational and motivational. So you can drop that link and in one of these breaths. You can also follow her. We'll drop that in the comment section. You can also follow her on IG as well because she's always sharing that. But both of the acts for me are selfless acts, because even if you only just tell one person, that I got out of the debt, if you're missing it to a sister or brother, it just heightens it, just knowing it. And then when you do something for yourself, that goodness just it just goes around because you feel lighter. You feel lighter. You just sit in traffic a little bit different. You know what I'm saying? You wait in the line a little bit different. You order your food a little bit different because that debt freeness ain't on you. That debt freeness is like, who want a car? Who want this? So it's just, it does a lot for your morale. So even when you don't share it, people benefit from, just the act alone. So that's good. Sure. All right. So that outlined your discipline. Okay. So there was a lot of changes that came about to student loans with the CARES Act. What are some of your favorite changes? What are some of your favorite ones?
The one that is the best for me is the fact that it's been extended into September. I mean, the fact that my loans that are Department of Ed loans, I do also have loans that are not Department of Ed loans, but those particular ones, I consolidated my high interest loans over to Department of Ed loans to take advantage of this 9-month, started in January, of the 9-month moratorium where there will be no payment, no interest. So that's probably
you had some private loan that you consolidated into some government-based loans just so that you could take advantage.
Correct.
Okay, so that would be tip number one.
I had 3 loans that were they were the highest balance and highest interest loans. The interest on those loans were 6.8%. The rest of my loans were like 2.3, 2.1. They were smaller amounts. I feel like I can pay them month to month. or pay them down month. So they weren't really agitating me. So I only moved over my large ones so that I could basically stop the clock on interest.
Okay, so that's good. That's really, really good. For those of you that are taking notes, one of the things that she did to take advantage would be to reconsolidate some of the loans as government loans as opposed to being private, so that she can actually take advantage of the opportunity not to be paying any interest, because some of the private loans, they may not be offering that. Some of them are and some of them are not. So apparently the private lenders that you were working with did not. Okay, what are some of the other things that you like about the CARES Act?
There was another part where they would give, and I'm not sure if that's still happening, but it was at one point where if your job could give you up to $5,000 toward your student loan for payment, and then they would get a tax-free benefit for that. They extended it up until March. I'm not sure if they're still doing it, because it was something that was a part of the one last year, and then they extended it into March. I'm not sure if it's still happening, but that was a really good option. I know a few people who took advantage of that.
Nice.
So it's something to look, to look up to see if jobs are able to still give that $5,000 grant towards their employees' student loans, because then they get a tax benefit for that money.
Okay. Those are good. Does that wrap up some of your favorites in terms of, can you think of anything else?
I'm just really excited about the rumblings of this potential $50,000 forgiveness.
Right. I was trying not to bring that up. I wanted to pull out the excitement, and kind of gloss over the fact that they did not, dismiss, a large part of the student loan debt. And that just lets you know just how profitable, education is in this country, just how profitable student loans are, which is, we can't go back, in terms of going back to school, unloading the student loans. No, we can't do that. But for your children, just always keep that in the back of the mind, with us giving out stimulus checks and all these different things. The money has to come from somewhere, and one of the largest places is actually student loan debt. So I was wanting for them to, give, some type of relief in that regard. But because of the amount of money that's going out in terms of rescue programs towards businesses as well as, individuals, I really wasn't riding on it. It wasn't riding
it's coming. I don't know if it's going to be the $50,000. I think the president has expressed a lot of interest in like the $10,000. That's where he felt comfortable. $1,000 across the board, regardless of income level. But he's been a lot of, like, every single day, he's been getting a lot of significant pushback to see if he can do $50,000. And he recently asked someone on his team to look at the legalities of doing so. So in the next few weeks, we will be seeing if that is actually feasible and if he's going to move towards doing it. So I am thinking that we are going to like that is a lot.
Let me put my heart out there. It would be nice. I'd love to see, because that's going to bolster home ownership, because a large part of people just either fear it or, just can't get over that student loan hump. So that's good. So for those of you that drop some money bags, if you sending out some positive vibrations, some positive energy to the 50,000, because I know some people who will be clear. Listen, they won't even have to call me. They won't even look for me, since that little bit that I got left over there. They'll be like, I know, call my name, sis, because I ain't tapped that 50. Okay, so you've tapped into some scholarships to assist you in paying your student loan debt. Can you share a little bit about the program that you benefited from? We can also drop that in the comment section. And then I know that you have other resources that come about for people to be able to take advantage of scholarships once you have graduated.
Right. Okay. So I just want to say that, like, every month I'm literally Googling loan forgiveness programs, loan forgiveness grants, because things pop up all the times. Companies get behind this initiative. They want to help. So I would advise each of you who are on here who may see this later to continue to search, because you may, things are coming up every single month. But one of the ones that I applied for and actually got was the Owe Nothing Initiative, OWE, Nothing Initiative. It's a nonprofit, and they're dedicated to helping people get out of student loan debt. Sorry. So they do give $500 up to $1,000. I think they're working on pushing it up to $1,000 grant. It's a one-time grant, so it's not significant, but any free money is free money. It's a very, very easy application, and you just fill out the one pager, you submit it to them. You can submit an application every single month. You can submit the same application, and then you wait until you win. And I think they pick about 5 to 6 people per month to give this gift to. There's also a program with African Pride and the United Negro College Fund. It was called the Wear Your Crown Initiative, where they were paying off, I believe, up to $100,000, which is significant for students who attended HBCUs. There was a pause in 2020 because of the pandemic, but it's still good to know about these things because you know where their intentions lie, so you can go on their website,
right.
You can sign up for their newsletter, and so when it comes back around, when it kicks back around, then you'll be ready for that. And I would also just like encourage people to go on the studentaid.gov to see what other options are there. I was just there yesterday, and I had posted in the student loan group that there were 10 different, I didn't know this myself, by the way. I thought there were 10 different options for forgiveness and discharge on the website. And now that we're in this particular administration, things are a lot easier for people who are in schools that are closed. Like that was almost impossible during the Trump.
Oh, yeah.
But now it's super easy to do. So go and apply. So there are all these different things that are already like happening that people just don't know about. So you just have to kind of educate yourselves a bit more about what's available and what's out there, because you may be holding on to debt that you're not even responsible for anymore.
Yeah, so I really like the fact that they have that student loan forgiveness for institutions that are no longer open, because oftentimes I do hear my clients say, well, what can we do? Can we get my student loans removed? And legally, the only way to have your student loans to be removed is if your institution lost their accreditation. So now that they have simplified that process, if you went to a university that's no longer closed, and that was also something that we were, our age group was really guinea pigs for, all of these educational institutions came up and they made these huge promises about these income projections, and they're not around just because they could not produce what it is that they were promising. A lot of people just, lost hope. Like that was like, I felt it when I seen it. Like I just never liked it, when it came to like just making education so accessible. You understand what I'm saying? It creates some level of saturation, which at some point has to bottom out. It's going to bottom out. Yeah. So I think that we've shared everything, unless though I covered all of the questions. If there are not any questions from the audience, we're going to head over to IG because we have some different friends. What's Ivy's group so folks can join that I mentioned a little bit earlier? Ivy,
I would have to
do you have the link for it?
I don't have the link for it. I would have to get it. But it's called Student Loan Success.
Okay. Is it private or public?
It's private, so I have to accept because people be on the internet wilding. So, but I'll definitely.
Okay. So you said you said the name of the group is what?
It's Student Loan Success.
Student Loan Success. Okay, so Ivy, I did see you drop. Here we go. We have it scrolling by. It's Student Loan Success.
On Facebook.
We have that right there. She does have to approve you to be there. It's not like your loan. So it's not a loan application, sis. They're not going to mess with your credit report. They want to make sure that you're here for what you say that you are. Are there any more questions as it relates to Ivy in her journey in paying off her student loan debt? She shared with you. I'm just going to give you guys a real quick wrap up, and then we're going to head over to IG. Okay. So we'll close you out for a second. Now go to single screen really quickly, and you let me know if I dropped all your tips real quickly. Okay,
right,
so this is a quick wrap up. All righty. So number one, she had to deal with the fact that, hey, listen, this isn't free money. If it wasn't for the money, then I wouldn't even be here, honey. I thank you. I appreciate it. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. One of her second tips is that at some point she was addressing it from a really laissez-faire type of mentality, kind of like unseen, unsaw, and just kind of whatever. But she began to educate herself. And when she educated herself, one of the bigger things that she found is that these student loan debt interest rates actually accrue daily. Daily. That's annoying.
Very predatory, actually.
That's annoying. You don't charge nobody interest every day.
But can I tell you that
Every day.
really quickly before we switch over to IG? Can I tell
Yeah.
you that like the amount that it accrues every day is so absurd? Initially, when I started paying attention, my loans were accruing $56 a day. Do the
$56
math.
a day.
Is a month.
You know that ain't no way to charge. Now that is
Ridiculous.
crazy.
I know.
$56 a day.
No. But now that I've paid down it significantly, now they only cost me $3.69. So we can.
Now you heard that. Okay, so Ivy, where do they go to use that calculator? Because I know that you can go online and then they'll calculate how much interest rates that you're paying daily.
Most of the service providers have the tool on their website. That's why we got to look at our options. I know for sure Navient has it under tools, but if you're with Great Lakes, if you're with any of the major student loan providers, they probably have it right on the website, and it'll tell you specific to your actual loans.
Okay, so you guys totally use that tool, because if you're not paying them right now, that'll make you want to pay. What's the name of the HBCU foundation that offers student loan forgiveness?
It was African Pride, and they had a partnership with the United Negro College Fund, and it was called I think it's Wear Your Crown.
Wear Your Crown. Wear Your Crown.
That was the initiative. Wear Your Crown, and it's African Pride partnered with the United Negro College Fund.
Okay, so all right, so we got that one, and then we got educated. Looking at it on a daily basis, that's enough to be like, because think about it, when this is when they're no longer extending this no interest period, if they don't continue, I think that they will. If they don't,
at least to the end of the year.
Yeah, at least to the end of the year, because who stops anything in September, sis? Come on now, just load me up, just ride me all the way out to the new year.
Exactly. Unless y'all about to drop the 50K.
Right. You're welcome, Stella. So then we talked about making sure that you looked into some other resources. Ivy shared that on a regular basis. It's just something that she Googles. She Googles to see whether or not is there some free money. She has benefited from some free money as well.
And there's quite a bit that are career specific. If you are in a particular industry, Google, student loan forgiveness or student loan grants for that industry. Like, there's a bunch of programs. There may be, ask your employer. Sometimes they're looking for ways to figure out benefits that are going to be more, I guess more beneficial to their employees. Ask them. Yeah,
in terms of being able to create tax credits for themselves. Yeah, so looking for things associated. So if you're going to Google specifically, student loans specifically here, if you joined Ivy's group, though, you did give a list that had maybe about 10 different student loan programs. So once you get accepted to her group, and we're going to scroll that for you guys one more time, just so that you can see it. The name of it, Ivy, is Student Loan Success.
Student Loan Success. Come on over. Share your stories.
Student Loan Success. Okay. So I hope that you guys feel richer. If you don't, I got something for you, sis. I got something for you. Okay. You're going to open up your spiritual purse. You're going to open up your actual purse. You're going to open up your bank account, wherever you get your money, honey, because hey! So next week, if you're not going over to IG with us next week, we will be talking about how there's going to be some changes to the credit bureau that is being talked about with President Biden. So I do want to share that with you. Currently, your student loans is not something that you can actually file bankruptcy on, but they are looking at some of those changes. So if you have any questions specifically, you can DM me, you can send me an email, because that's what we're talking about next week. Until then,
bye.